We got a solution.
I have a tripod like with the phone stand in my car.
Go get
Urgency.
It's fine. It's fine.
Malik, you good?
Malik, you're good. Thank you. Thank you.
Appreciate that though. It's the thought that counts.
Alright. Yeah, everyone else, you can take a seat. Feel free to have a
You're point to sit down.
I like it.
But I do it though.
Thanks. Okay, cool. Yes, I've seen enough of these. I should know how they go. But I've seen Danny's story, Cassandra's story, Tracy Alante's, Wade's. So.
Sorry, ladies. Hey, who stole this? Who stole the piece of this thing that goes up here? Who stole it? Company theft.
Jail.
Somebody took it to use it for something. You'll find it. So it's like here.
Yes, here.
Lost between somebody's companies.
That's
Let's go.
Let's go.
That's not okay. Okay, cool.
Oh, action.
Action. Yes. I actually don't really know how these things actually start, but I never would have thought that I would complete this program. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know really what I thought when I first started, but I didn't really think much. I was just kind of here. But yes, I'm from Minnesota. Moved here a year ago. For those of you who don't know, I moved here a year ago with my two best friends. Really just to have fun. I moved here, was like, cool, we're like all three of us are gonna live together, like we're gonna have another fun year before we kind of start like finding a job or finding like a husband. We were just like, cool, let's move here. Yeah.
Hunt.
Yeah. I was like, cool, we'll move here, have fun in Texas. Never been to Texas my whole entire life. They wanted to move, so I said, sure, I'll go. I really kind of got here, looked for healthcare administration jobs because that's what my degree was in. Applied to a few of those. The reason I found this job was I was sitting at Starbucks because my roommate, she worked from home, so we were at Starbucks one day and I had nothing else to do, so I thought I just started clicking on Indeed to random jobs. Had an interview here, or had my Zoom with Claire. Really liked Claire, related to her. Had my second round, third round. Honestly, I didn't think I was gonna be one of those people. I was like, you know what, I accepted the job, but I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna show up. But then I thought about when I worked at resorts previous, how I would hire people and they wouldn't show up to work, and it was really frustrating. And so I was like, I can't do that to somebody else. So I was like, just to be nice, I was like, let me just go and see what this job is. Julian did my orientation, still super confused on what the job was. But yeah, just really confused. I was like, I'm not the loudest person in the room, and when I started, I definitely was not the loudest person in the room, and so there was just a lot of yelling. It was very weird, but I did not want to quit. It was the pride. I did not want to call my parents and tell them that I accepted the job, took it, and then quit it 2 days later. I was like, I didn't want to tell them that I quit the job, so I stayed around. But as I stayed here, really got to know a lot of people here, really related to a lot of people, but still didn't really know what the job was. Kind of got to leadership. Took me a long time because I was always 1 foot in, 1 foot out. So moved here to have fun. So every weekend I was going out. Or even, would get here at 9:40, leave the field at 7, unless, somebody in my car ride drove me there, so I was forced to stay. I was that person that wanted to come in right at the beginning and leave right when the day was over. I did not put in any extra work at all, but it makes sense. I had no growth for 6 months. I could always see the business. They would run the opportunity meetings. I would see what Richard does, what Tommy does. I'm like, cool, it makes sense, but I just never actually knew the baby steps. Honestly, I just thought it kind of happened. I didn't know you had to come in early to do interviews and put in all this extra other work. I just kind of thought it just kind of happened. But saw Danny get promoted. I was like, okay, it works. I don't really understand. I still didn't understand like how it was. Saw Cassandra get promoted, Tracy Alante, like Wade. So since I've been here, I've seen 5 people get promoted, and what really kind of turned it around for me, like I said, 6 months of no growth. I really wanted to go back home to Minnesota. Like, my family is the most important people to me ever. My dad got cancer, and I was like, that's it, I'm going home. But I stayed because he was like, you're not going to come home for me. I'm like, okay, whatever. So I stayed, and in March, it's weird. A lot of weird things happened in March for things to line up. But my dad had surgery. It's cancer-free. Everything's good. My original upline like actually quit. So I had my dad like was cancer-free. My original upline quit, and then I hired this guy who was really sharp. And so it was kind of weird. Like, a lot of things all happened in like that 1 week, and I kind of was like, I either quit or like I need to stay and figure it out. And so luckily Tommy, kept me around, and he took me underneath his wing. I'm very grateful for Tommy. Thank you. Like, I made a lot of mistakes. Like, I did not try. Like, I was that person in the room that was just a body. And so, like, Richard and Tommy, I think they would have fired me 10 times over again with all the mistakes that I made. Like, I'm serious. Like, and they didn't. I was very grateful. Because, like, you make a mistake, like, yes, like, you could be done, but, Tommy always saw something in me. And I really saw it for myself. But, so kind of, I went under Tommy's wing, and I actually went to the field with Avan, and this is actually really where the bonus girls came from, but it was a Saturday, and every Saturday I did well because it's 3 sales and you can go home. So every Saturday, so that I could go out and go hang out with my friends and be done with work earlier, I would just get 3 and be done. But so I got 3 on the Saturday, and Avan was it was 12, 11:30, it was super early in the day, and Avan rode to the field with me, and I was like, oh man, I won't be stuck. That was my thought. And so I got 3, and I was like, I was kill Avan. I was like, we'll get you 1 more, because she was at 2. I was like, then we can go home. And Avan's like, okay, yeah, sure. I'm like, okay, cool. So Avan gets 1 more, and then I'm like, cool, we can go home. She's like, well, now I need 1 more for the 20 bonus, so we gotta stay for that one. I'm like, okay, fine, we can do that. So I'm like, cool. So she gets her 4th one. I'm like, we can go home now, right? I'm really can we go home? I was a bad influence. And then she was like, Sarah, the bonus is if we hit 7, it's the $500 bonus or $600, whatever it was. She's like, we're averaging a sale per building. She broke everything down. She's like, let's just stay. It's now it was 12, 1 o'clock. Let's just stay and let's just hit the bonuses. And I'm like, ugh, no, I don't want to. So we're at the park, on these swings. And I'm like, no, I want to go home. That was just my mentality at the time. When you guys tell you, my mentality is so different now, but I was just that person that wanted to leave. And so she was like, let's just go knock 1 more building. I was like, fine. So I go knock 1 building and get a sale. I'm like, dang it, now I'm at 4. I'm like, dang it. I'm like, why is Avan ring? But anyways, we ended up hitting the bonuses at extra mile and extra hour. So, and at the end, she's like, don't you feel better? You extra miled an extra hour, but you hit the bonus, you pushed yourself. Because my thing was what if I stay here and waste my time? That's not what I wanted to do. But she was like, you're wasting your time not growing. I'm like, okay, fair enough. But I think from that day, and like I said, I heard a guy that was sharp. He got to leadership really quick, and since there, my momentum could pick up. But that day definitely sticks out in my mind as one of the game changer days. So I do really appreciate Avan too as well for helping me out and kind of switching my mentality and kind of taking me under her wing as well. But I mean, like since then, like it was like April now, like started trying, build some leaders, people quit, but there was definitely a lot of other times that I wanted to quit. There was one morning I spent a couple hours in Richard's office, like crying. But so thanks to Richard. I never really thought that I would be in Richard's office crying, but unless I was getting fired. But, he's definitely been very patient with me as well. But yeah, like other than that, like you just like I'm sure a lot of you guys did. Like me, I just took a lot longer to actually commit. Like people are like, "What's your advice?" Well, like you just have to commit a lot sooner. Kind of have just like blind faith and belief in Tommy and Richard because they do know what they're doing, and I don't know why it took me so long for it to click in my brain. I see 4 promotions and I'm still like, like I don't know, like it's just that you guys. I've seen Tyler, me, Avan. Some of you guys were here for Wade as well, so it definitely does work, and just wanted to see it. Really just take Richard and Tommy's advice, because the rest of it, like, you're gonna go through ups and downs, but if I didn't express, like, my downs to Tommy and Richard, and, like, if they didn't help me, like, I probably would have quit, but I'm just really, like, really, really thankful for them. That's it.
Good.
I guess I go next. I'll start with where I'm from. I'm from Turkey, neighbors with Alec. But yeah, I was born there. I was born there. My family was very poor there. Well, actually, no, the country's just very poor. I don't know, it was just, we were very, like, a close-knit, like, culture. Like, all of my aunts and uncles, we were all neighbors. So, like, our culture is very, like, tight-knit. Everybody knows everybody. Everybody knows what everyone's doing. That's just, like, how we were raised. And, like, my ethnicity or my culture, it's, like, very, very traditional. So, like, the mentality that I had growing up, most people, like, the really, really traditional people, like, the girls or the wives just get married and then they're at stay-at-home moms, and then the men just work. My mom was actually a little bit more progressive, so she was just like, no, you're not going to do that. You're going to go work and you're going to become a doctor first, or a doctor, an engineer, or a lawyer. That was my mom being progressive. So that's kind of just like what I always grew up with. When we moved to America, my parents, like, number one thing was always education, getting a degree, being financially stable, and being independent and not having to rely on a man for things. And so I just kind of went with that. Like, if I'm being honest, I wasn't really, like, talented or, like, gifted or anything like that. So, like, I didn't really have, like, anything I was passionate about that I was going to do. So I just went with it. I was like, okay, cool. Like, that sounds cool. Like, doctors make, like, 6 figures. But what's, like, the doctor type that takes the less amount of years? So I Googled it, ended up being a pharmacist. It only takes 8 years, only. But I was like, cool, I'll do that. At least there's no specialty or residency or anything like that. So I graduated high school 21, and I had applied to UTA. And so I was going to start there in the fall in August. And so usually what my family does in the summers is we go overseas to visit my grandma, my aunts, and all my cousins. And we usually just spend our summers over there. And so, of course, like, COVID had hit. It was just only a year after COVID. It was 2021. So we couldn't go overseas. My mom was like, I don't want to get stuck there. So we decided to stay. And I was like, dang, this is going to be 3 long months of me just being at home doing nothing. So I was like, let me go apply for a job and do something. And so I was going to apply for a pharmacy tech job, something like that. Nobody would hire me. I didn't have experience. And so I just went through that phase where I applied to like 40 jobs on Indeed. I was just like clicking. And then I got a call back from here and did my Zoom with Claire. Claire was honestly not going to push me through because I was originally going to start as an intern, but I had no idea how I was going to make the schedule work. I don't know how I was going to be a full-time student and work like 50 hours a week. I had no idea. So I was like, I'll figure it out. And then Claire was like, okay. But she was about to disqualify me, so thank God she didn't. Started here. Fun fact, my orientation here was also my orientation at college. So that morning, what I ended up doing was hopping on Zoom for my college orientation, left that, and then came here to do my Newbern orientation. And I ended up really liking it, and I was just like, well, I don't know what it's going to be. I don't know if I'm going to leave this, go to school in fall, or do part-time. I had no idea what it was. So I was just like, okay, cool. Well, we're going to cross that bridge when we get there. School's not going to start for another 2.5 months. I was like, okay, fine, whatever. So came here, started for like my first 2 weeks. I ended up getting promoted. But really what made me commit fully was my promotion date. I got promoted to leadership. It's not a big deal, guys, but it was a big deal for me. I got promoted to leadership, and I was like an excited 18-year-old. I'd never gotten a job promotion. This was my very first job. I thought it was the biggest accomplishment in the world. So I go home, I tell my parents, and my mom was just very against it. You know, she, like, this is not what our culture does. Like, this is very, like, not traditional. So my mom was just like, what are you doing? Like, why are you working so many hours? Like, why are you going door to door? Like, we just don't get it. Like, we didn't raise you to do this. We raised you to go to school, like, this and this and that. So it's like, I go home to tell my mom that I got promoted so I could get attention and so that she could congratulate me. And she just, like, did the opposite. So, like, that day, like, I was super frustrated. I was, like, crying. It was, like, 9 p.m. And then I just, like, wanted to get out of the house. So I, like, get in my car, drive to, like, the Taco Bell parking lot, and then I call Richard. So I call Richard that night, and I'm like, dude, like, my mom's such a hater. She doesn't My mom's such a hater. She doesn't get it. I'm trying to be bridged. It's like my mom doesn't understand. Like, I was just so pissed. And then Richard was like, dude, like, she's not going to understand. You're not going to convince her. Just ask her for support. And so that was really kind of like the turning point for me. I don't know what jobs you know that at like 9, 10 o'clock at night, you can call the CEO of the company and just complain about your family. But just the support from day one is a thing that really just made me stay. And so I always just like built a really close bond with Richard. My upline at the time didn't even know if he wanted to do this. Even though Latte was contemplating quitting. I was just like, because it was like his first or second month in the business, he didn't even know if he wanted to do it. So Richard kind of like took me under his wing. He was just always there for me day one. And so I was just like, okay, well, that's it. Like, I'm going to do this. Like, I don't know where else I can get the support. I'm not getting it from my family. I'm not getting it from my friends. Like, nobody else understands. So I decided to stay. So then the following week, I submitted my application, and then I just dropped out of college before I even started. So I just dropped out of college, only went for an hour for orientation, and that was it. I didn't even go. It was on my computer. But that's how I kind of got started in it. Oh, cool, fun. Hello. So yeah, that was that. I ended up leaving school to do this full time. I know when I started, I was a big headache for Richard. I was a project, okay? I was a teenager, fresh out of high school, super emotional, super prideful, and I thought I knew everything. I didn't really listen to anybody. Super headstrong, super stubborn, like, I was just a project. So Richard was very patient with me. So was Tommy, so was Alante. So everyone was just patient with me until I could put my pride aside and actually like apply feedback and do what I was supposed to do. So I struggled for a really long time. You know, I got to level 2 quick. Like building a leader, that wasn't really anything like hard. So I got to level 2 like my 2nd month or like 3rd month. But then I stayed level 2 for the next 10 months. So that was very fun. Level 2 land. So I stayed in that area for a really long time, and I think I did a lot of like comparing myself. I had to compete with the freaking NFL player, okay? So we had like Tracy start a couple of weeks after me. Danny started as well. Cassandra, Alante. Who else? Yeah, it was just like all of these like super sharp, like overqualified people were starting, and they were like passing me up and moving ahead, and I was just like, I kept telling him like, oh, like it's been 6 months, why am I not promoted yet? I had no team, but that's why. But I thought like the way to get there is just by like sticking your body in the office for 6 months and then automatically you would just get promoted. No, you actually have to be intentional in order to get promoted. And so I think my turning point was around February or March. That's when I kind of picked things up. A lot of you guys probably can relate to this. I've been my first leader, got to level 2, and then she quit. So then I was a level 2 with no leaders for like a few months. So that was very depressing. I was just very like hard on myself for that time. So it's probably the reason why I struggled to get out. I didn't really ask for help. I was a little bit prideful, but I was just beating myself up internally. And then around March, I started picking things up, getting momentum, built some teams. And then fast forward to November, I got promoted. And then the whole time, if I'm being honest, I really didn't know if my parents were going to let me go or not. I was just like, we'll cross that bridge when I get there. Anyways, they let me go, so that's fun. So yeah, now fast forward here. I'm leaving tomorrow to move out. It's definitely different. Really, in my culture, women are not allowed to move out unless you're married or it's for college. So this is like a first to my culture. But I'm now moving to San Francisco. Very confident in myself. The reason why, it's because I'm getting promoted out of a national consultant's office. Like, that's insane. I definitely have it easier than a lot of owners to have such great mentorship. To be coached by a millionaire is insane. As long as I do everything that's like laid out for me, as long as I do everything that I'm told and I don't change anything, like it's just no way that I'm like gonna fail. But 100% all of the credit is due to Richard.
Give me a Kleenex.
I definitely couldn't have done it without him. He's just supporting me from day one. And I'm just super thankful and super grateful to have this mentorship and really just have somebody who's just always going to be there for me. And he's just like the number one reason why I believe in myself so much. You know, like all the odds were kind of against me. You know, I was 18, didn't have any job. It's easy to think like you can't do it. And a lot of times like I didn't think I could do it. But you know, to have somebody believe in me until I could believe in myself, it just means the world to me. And so truly I just want to thank Tommy and Richard. I just couldn't do it without them. So yeah, that's it. Get promoted.
So you guys realized, I'll close it out. So it's like, oh, thank you guys. I mean, you make me, when you guys both started, I was not a regional or anything. So you guys were all a part of that journey. So I thank you guys as well. But hey, if you guys, I know there's a lot of people on their first day here. So just, I promise that we don't just make you cry here. They both like coupled up there with like, let's cry together. That's not, sometimes people get happy too when they get promoted. You can go on our YouTube channel and we have some promotions that people like enjoying, you know. We just got them today, I guess maybe it's the rain or whatever. But hey, if you guys noticed one thing that's different from a lot of jobs, well actually I think it's the same in any job, it's just less vocalized. But like they were both talking about how many times they wanted to quit. And I look at that, and I used to look at that like it was scary to me. But I started to look at it like that was like a good thing. Just because like, I'm just a person that likes to be pushed and challenged and stuff like that. And if you're gonna pick a career for the next 60 years of your life, or you're gonna trade all your youth for money, might as well be something that grows you. So when I heard so many people wanting to quit, I was kind of scared. I'm like, wow, they look pretty sharp, and they wanted to quit. So it's probably I have no chances. But you know, just a good learning lesson for you guys that are listening and you're learning and you're brand new. You're like, hey, you're gonna want to quit a lot of times because it's supposed to get kind of hard. And look, Sarah had her breaking point day. If you notice her breaking point day whenever the bonus girls day that she was talking about, it happened to her about 6 months in, and then she made a commitment, or 6 months or 7 or 8, not sure. And then Avan's break point was a lot sooner, right? Where she was like, it also takes a special person to like call me to like, hey, what do I tell my mom? And like the fact that she trusted me so quickly says a lot about her, like the ability for her to, I love my parents, but do I want what they have? That's sometimes a little bit difficult, and me having to explain to her like, hey, your parents love you, and that's why they're concerned, because they love you and they see you doing something different, so they're concerned. It's because they love you. A lot of people don't even have that love from their parents, so it's like learning how to do that from a very early stage for everyone. But hey, just so you guys see it, like I think it's really cool to see. You're gonna go through days in the rain where like you might be looking at it today like, well, I don't want to be in the rain, and it's just water. Nothing's gonna happen to you. The other option is if you get a normal job and you work at a mall for, at the express store for 8 hours, or you work at the kiosk, or you work as a health administration person, or you work at a desk, or you work for a lawyer's office, and you start looking at it like, well, what if I spend 40, 50 years on this desk? Like, would I, or would I trade some days for the rain for like both of them to go to San Francisco, run a business? They're going to Punta Cana in April to hang out with friends, and I think the best prize that they get is to be like the friends they're gaining, and now that they're owners too, is surrounded by a group of people that also went through the training. It is just rewarding. It makes you feel safe that your friends are also winners, versus most of us at the beginning of our years, maybe some didn't, but like you're surrounded by a lot of people that are not winning in life. Anybody have friends like that, or association like that? That like your friends are just your friends, and they're not necessarily the best influence. But when you do something so quote unquote hard, which is not as hard as it sounds, but it's definitely harder than a regular job, But now anytime they have a bad day, they're gonna have a bunch of friends that just like, the Wades, the Dannys, all the people you guys said, that just believe in you, and they know what you've been through. So like, because they've been through it too, and everybody has to pay the price, so I just want you guys to see that. Like these two ladies, it's a little bit of a different meeting today. Normally we actually would teach you something, but it's their last day. You guys won't see them here. I think the team that is leading with them is leaving, is it Friday the last day?
Yes.
Friday will be their last day, and they're gone, and they'll come back here if they have to, travel or do maybe some paperwork in Dallas, or maybe for a regional meeting, but they're gone. And I think that's pretty cool. It speaks a lot to your work ethic. This is the end of your orientation day today. It's the end of your orientation, which I think is super cool, that you finish the training and you get to go out. So for everybody that's looking at them, I would try to keep their numbers. If you guys want to maybe put your numbers up there if they're not up there. Oh, they are, great. And like, hey, whenever you have a doubting moment, like maybe call them. Say, hey, what would you do? Like, I did start this to kind of finish the program, but now I'm like, I can't believe that I'm going through blah, 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 whatever is the negative. And maybe call somebody like them, and they've overcome the negative, and let them talk to you. You still make your own decision, You can't keep a quitter from quitting. Would you agree?
Yeah.
You seen people quit? Is the gym getting emptier now that it's almost the third week in January? A loser's a loser. You can't help that, right? But hey, we're all gonna want to lose because it's just comfortable. Well, I could go with my dad's job. My dad owns a company, and he could pay me $100K. Yeah, you can do that for sure if you have that option. But there's no nobility in that. It's at the end of the day. So and Sarah comes from a wealthy family where she could probably not work and get by, and her parents take care of her. But there's something prideful about. Hopefully, some of you guys feel like there's something prideful about building something that you can put your name on, versus something that's kind of handed to you. Anybody agree with that?
Yes, sir.
So, and I think kudos to her, because some people got to do this just because they're broke, and they just need a way out. Like look, Cassandra's absolutely broke, has 3 kids. She had to do it, 3 or 4. Two. Actually, I made one up. So she has to do it because there's no other option for her, right? Or Alante. It comes from probably the worst neighborhood in the suburbs in Chicago. You know, dad was never there. You can imagine, and you know, mom needed help, and he needed this for his 1-year-old son, Azakai, that just needs the help, you know. But then you have people like Sarah that are not like that, and they just want to put their name, they want to create pride, and they want to put, you know, stamp their last name on something. And I can't wait to see, like, in 3 or 4 months for you guys to see San Francisco on the group chats and all that stuff, and for you guys to see in 3 or 4 months all the people that are there that now look up to them as like they're the Tommy and the Richard of the situation. It's super cool. It is definitely life changing, and hopefully you guys took something out of it, even though it looks like a sad story. I promise you it's a great story. This is a success story, so thank you, ladies. Does anybody have any questions that they want to ask him? We can do 5 minutes of questions.
What's your all's?
Except for
Okay.
Just kidding.
What's your all's company gonna be named?
Yes.
Mine is Legacy Executives. Yeah.
Hey, follow on Instagram. Hey,
Yes,
Yes.
follow me on Instagram.
it'll help
Follow
us.
now.
Hey, Desi, get your guys to follow them on Instagram.
Yeah.
No push-ups, right?
Yes,
No push-ups. Go follow them on Instagram. Legacy Executives and
Maplewood.
Maplewood.
It's Maplewood Marketing, and Maplewood is the street that my parents' house is on and where I grew up.
next one.
Cute.
That cute.
Yes.
Julian's company was gonna be called Two Below because when he started, he got -$2 in his account.
Got it fast. Now it's negative.
Too above.
I'm loyal.
Now it's called Overcoming. Overcoming Inc.
Third time.
Anybody else? You wanted to ask a question? Yeah, Rashawn, go ahead.
So you said that you had to compete with an NFL player. Was that, were you exaggerating or you were being for real?
No, I was
No,
for
Tracy
real.
literally-
Tracy was
Tracy
in the
played with
NFL.
Tracy.
Tracy is our owner that runs an office in, where's he at? In Malibu.
No.
He played
And
in
he played the NFL, maybe what was it, for 10 minutes at least?
He put on the pants and he took him off.
No, he did play the NFL. Tracy James, NFL. He played, what was
He's
his
a one
college?
eye, you got
He
it.
played at
ACU.
ACU, Avan Christian.
And now he runs an office in California.
Follow us on Instagram.
He's crushing it. He's got a million guys.
Right now.
He saved
Right now.
$60,000 saved in 4 or 5 months. But he was here in this training about a year ago. He opened in June of last year. So the guy obviously started and just crushed her, right? And that doesn't feel good for him.
And then also a D1 athlete, Danny, who was an engineer. I was like,
Danny-
God damn.
Danny's 21 and he would run a mile in 4 minutes.
1 minute mile, yeah.
4:01
Yeah.
was the record. So he was already competitive, 21 years old, and he got here in 4 months, got promoted, and you know that could be humiliating for you if you're a cleric, right? So, John,
What are your guys' whys?
Tell us.
well, John, we said 5 minutes.
Alright, cool. So for me, the first thing I want to do is pay off my parents' debt. My parents are 6 figures in debt, like $200,000 in debt. So that's the first thing I want to do is pay off their debt, and then also.
You're gonna need a couple months for that.
So yeah, I want to do that, and then I just want to be super successful. Like, I don't know, I think it's okay to not have to work until you're 65 doing the same thing. I just want to do something different. I want to be retired at 27. Sorry, Richard.
You can tell she's new.
It's only 8 years. I think that's doable.
8 years, damn you.
That is doable.
It's doable, yeah.
Larry would never let you retire.
Yeah, Richard did it in 4 years. It's okay.
I'm not
He's
retired.
still here.
Or have the ability to. The ability to retire at 27. I'm probably not going to because I love the business. Yeah, I just love it. So I enjoy it. It's my passion. But I want to have the choice to, or the ability to be able to retire at 27. But yeah, I just want to be super successful, provide for my family, pay off their debt, and yeah, that's about it.
What's your why, Sarah? You wanna come up with one real fast?
That was a buy, an apple.
I always felt bad not having my parents, like I want to retire them, or I have kids. Like I always felt bad that I didn't have like whys like that. But like, yeah, I did. Like I struggled because I always felt bad. But like my why is like I just want it like for myself, like selfishly, like have my own like name to something, have my own company, and then also like I'm super excited to have like kids one day, but like I want to be a stay-at-home mom. But I've never wanted to be a stay-at-home mom because my husband makes a lot of money. I want like because I make money. Like Julie does. Yes. Picking up my kid in my suit.
That's a good cry.
Yeah, hey, and can you talk about, I know you're starting to look at, like your brother's starting to look at you in a different way, maybe like you're in a position to maybe mentor your brother a little bit, or I don't know if you felt like that before. I know you're now helping him and he kind of reaches out to you and see what does that look like, what does that feel like?
Yeah, it feels really good. And my brother always looked at me, I'm not gonna lie, as a party person. My brother, because that's what I was, and like my brother was always like, yeah, Sarah's just gonna be the fun aunt one day, like all that stuff. But my brother's really good at hockey. Like you guys will see him like in the NFL like one day, like probably like in like a year or two.
NHL.
The NHL. Yes.
NFL.
That was on my brain.
Let's lie.
Yes.
Well, let's lie.
That was on my brain. You guys were talking about it, but yes, you will see him in the pros. But he's like reads a lot, and he's like crushing it this year. And I told him the other day, I was like, it's probably because you're reading. He's like, yeah, sure. But he asked me like, oh, what books I should read. He tells me when he's on the bus that he's reading because the phone kills his brain cells, and I just think he's being better for it, and it makes me feel better.
If hockey doesn't work, tell him to
Yes.
apply here.
What team does he play for?
If we run out of ice.
U.S. national teams we just played for most recently.
Yes. So he just
Run
play.
out of ice.
Yes.
What are the two, I guess for both of you guys, what are the best habits to have to get you from entry level to ownership?
Read.
Trust your upline.
And that too.
First, I do want to say, since it is my first day, thank you guys for no orientation so far. Y'all look great. But
If you don't quit, you'll say it one day. Like people will ask you, "Who did your orientation?" Because that's a question we get asked a lot, right? Like, or at least the owners on the call. I think Wade is an owner, and his orientation was done by Danny, who's an owner. Who did Tracy's orientation? That was you.
Yeah.
And who did your orientation?
You and Tommy.
Julian.
And Julian. Who did yours? Julian. All 3 days.
Julian and then Danny.
Julian and Danny. It's like, see, it's fun to see that. Like you'll one day you'll say like, hey, these two girls did the orientation. It was the last one they did before they left. Obviously, if they're still around, you'll say that.
the bonus girls. Okay, so I have a couple questions though. First, so in your process, you did say you lost what is the word? Leader, yeah.
Oh,
I was just a leader, but you lost them. So how was that like? What made that so difficult for you, or like how did the company adjust to that if you do lose a leader?
I mean, if I'm being honest, like it's kind of like the NFL. Like the NFL, like only like
Not Orlong.
no, not that, but like only a small percentage of people like make it to the NFL. But does that mean like does the NFL have to lower their standards so that way more people are accepted into the NFL, or do they like to keep the standard high? So it's just like that. Like turnover is high in our business, but it's just because we're competing to be like the top like 1%.
So personally for you, what did you have to do to still push through that adversity?
Understand that concept,
Okay.
and then just push through it and hire more people. Okay. Yeah. Good question. Any other questions?
Questions? Okay, well.
Okay, folks.
Okay, folks.
Last time at the.
Okay, folks.
Last time with Avan and Sarah. Okay, no. So before we go for break, because obviously, if you guys noticed today, it's raining. So if anybody needs a day off because it's rain is very dangerous.